Brendan here from Off-Road Addiction Australia. Today I'll be installing a 2-inch lift. Just doing it a cheap way for a minute. I've got some shackles and stuff here. The reason for that is I'm planning on putting a tray and canopy set up in the future on the back of the BT. So I don't want to put money into suspension to have to change it due to load ratings and stuff like that. So I'm just going to get away with a cheap lift for now and then switch it up in the future. So this will work for most rear leaf sprung vehicles and also the front struts as well. It's very similar for most modern dual cabs. So we'll have a look. First off here, I've got my 50mm coil spacers, and I've also got some extended rear leaf shackles just here. So in the kit with the leaf shackles as well, you get a little bag of grease nipples as well. So they're all greasable pins, as you can see there. So what this will do, basically just stretch the spring and put a space between that front strut as well, just to give it a cheap sort of lift. I've heard that the ride will get a bit harsher, but like I said, it's only a temporary thing for now for me. So this is going to be perfect. So obviously I've got the bits and pieces here. Obviously 2 rear shackles and 2 front struts. Some Loctite, always handy. Should always be Loctite in your suspension bolts, as well as some grease there as well. Now these are greasable pins, like I did say, so I need to get a grease gun on that as well once I put the nipple on the end to do them up properly, but just a little bit of grease to help assemble them. Also got here just an assortment bit of tools, not really too sure which bits I'll need for now. I'll show you at the end of exactly what tool I use, and then you know what tools you need. Also another thing as well, I've got a tape measure here, and what I'm going to do first before I start doing anything is literally just measure the gap from the ground to that top of the wheel arch there, and that'll show me how much the lift has actually increased, and just to make sure it actually did, it gives you a bit of satisfaction seeing the numbers as well. So I've got my notepad there, I'll write down the measurements and all that shortly, but that's just what I like to do before I do any suspension work or anything like that. Also just a couple of rags there as well. I do have some more tools in the tool bag, but like I said, we'll see what we need. The other important thing that you will need is also a jack. I'll show you where we'll go for that. It'll be just up here for the rear, and also the front. So you'll need to take the wheels off at the front of the vehicle. So looking underneath the car straight away, you see I've got this big spare tyre here. I'm just going to take that out, just to give myself a bit of extra room. But these are the shackles that we'll be changing. Just here. So you can see the length of them as opposed to the length of the new ones. So that'll increase that ride height definitely on the front, on the rear of the vehicle, sorry. As we look at the front, you can see we've already got some measurements here. They're for clearance and stuff like that. But we've also got some aftermarket suspension in here already. I'm not sure on what the lift is that's in it. I did buy it with it all fitted. It is fairly new. I've only had the car for a couple of months, or a month and a bit. So the coil spacer that I showed you earlier will sit on top of this spring underneath here. So it'll just sit about there. So that's that. We'll get into it. Alright, so another thing that we're going to have to look for as well is if both of these rear shackles, I'll start with the rear, if both of these rear shackles here are the same. In this particular case, they are. So they are reversible, so it don't have a left or a right side. But that's important just to check before you go fitting them. So having a look underneath here, I've removed the spare tyre. That's giving me plenty of room up here and for that side as well. So the rear is going to be super easy. All you have to do is get your jack, and you just want to jack it up just in the middle, just off the tow bar, somewhere up there. Alright, so as you're jacking up the car here, you can see the lift of the springs there is changing, and basically you only want to lift it up enough to sort of take the weight off the springs. Alright, so once you've jacked it up here, what you want to do is get your spanner on these two bolts here. It's just a 21mm nut there with a washer on it, and take them off. And so that's the inside of this shackle, and that should just come off like that. Take note of which way it did come off as well. Just put that aside. And so you can see your shackle is only on this side here now. So then what should happen is this side will just pull straight out like that. And just watch the tension on the spring, jack it up or lower it down as you need. So we'll see what it's like. May need a pry bar here. Like that. So you can see they're starting to come out, which they might pull the bushes with it. So just go ahead and get that out. Alright, so as you can see, I've got it just about all the way out there. Just keep wriggling that out. That's it. So you can see the bush did come out, the chassis up here. That's fine, I'll put that back in. And then the bushes stayed in on the leaf springs. So the leaf springs are just sort of chilling there at the minute. So what I'll do is I'll get the bush off this, clean it up, re-grease it, and get all these bushes all re-greased and back in. I'll do that off camera because it's going to be a bit hard to film that. But just get them all ready, get it all clean, and get ready for the new shackles. Alright, so I got the old shackle out, just here. So you can see it's a bit old and old greased and stuff like that. It's one of the first things you'll notice if you have a look. You'll see first off that this one is significantly bigger. So it basically sits like that. Alright, where the original one is, and you can see there's about 2 inches or 50mm gap between where the spring usually would sit and where it's going to sit. So that's the old versus the new there. I've also cleaned up the bushes just up in there. So you've got this one here, that one up there. I've cleaned them up. Get ready for the new shackles to go in there. Alright, so I've got the old shackle out just here. You see it's a bit old and whatnot. And I've got the new shackle ready to go as well. So I'll show you the difference between them two. If I hold them like this, you can see where it'll always mount through the chassis will be the same, but where it actually touches the spring down the bottom, that's about 2 inches difference there. So that's how it works. That's how it'll lift the car. So I'm gonna get the new pins greased up. I'm just gonna do a little bit by hand before I put the nipples and all that on, and I'll put them in and we'll go from there. Alright, so I've got the new shackle part here. I've taken the end cap here off. I've also put the grease nipples on there. As you can see, I've just greased up both the shackles where the bushes will be sitting. I know these are greasable pins, but it's good to just grease them up before you fit them. As well as also greasing the pin there, you want to grease up where the bush will rub against here and just here as well. So you want to do that on both sides. So on this one, when I put it in, I'll grease up around there and grease up around there as well. I did notice as well that these do have 2 holes. The left hand side was sitting about 10-15mm lower than the right hand side, so I may put it up one or something just to lift it, to keep it level. So I'll play around with that. That's the other good thing about measuring before you go ahead and do it, because if it does have an option like this, now I know that it wasn't exactly level anyway, because the springs have probably sagged over time or what have you, so I can adjust that now. So I'm gonna get these in, and I'll give you an update once that's all done. One of the other things here that I've noticed as well, it's gonna be easier to take both sides out. So I've gone and taken both shackles out just there. And then what you can do, when you jack it up, you can see, we'll try and fit the new ones there. So you get that in there, you can see there's no chance. Right now you could pry it down and whatnot, but if you just take the other side out, and then you jack it up a bit, if you actually watch the shackle, a bit hard because of that exhaust there. Let's have a look. There, as I jack it up, you can see that angle there is getting better. So now, sorry for the bad videoing, when I go to fit it, you can see how much closer that is there. So that won't take much at all, just a little bit of persuasion and you'll be able to get that in just by lifting up on the rear spring or lowering the jack a little bit. So helpful tip, just take both sides out at the same time and do it all together. So it turns out it's super hard to film while I'm fitting all this, but you can see there that's the new shackle in, and I've put all the nuts on, all with a bit of Loctite on the threads and stuff like that. I haven't tightened them all the way up, I've just nipped them up. And so what I'll do once I've done the other side, because I've still got the other side over there hanging out. So once I've done the other side, I'll lower the jack and go over them all and just tighten them up that way. That way the bushes are sort of seated properly where they would normally sit, and you're not tightening the bushes up in the wrong spot, and that's how you like tear bushes and stuff like that. So that's that side done. I'm gonna try and get that side over there done as well, and then we'll go from there because it's just super hard to film all this. So like I said, just make sure there's grease on these splines here as well. Bit of Loctite on the threads with the nuts. I put a bit of Loctite on where the grease nipples are on the top and bottom there. There's a couple of grease nipples that go on this side. I'll put them on afterwards. So yeah, just a bit of Loctite everywhere. Make it work. You will need a bit of a lever bar. It's just sitting over there. That'll, help you get the shackles in and the back and the other plate on and stuff like that. So it does go, you just need to give it time and give it a bit of a wriggle, and it's pretty simple. So I'll get on to the other side. All right, now I've done the right-hand side. I've got an idea now of how these shackles will work. So I'll just show you now. I've greased up this one here. See, I've got the top pin and the bottom pin. I've also taken all three of these nuts off here and Loctited them all. And then I've got the other half of the shackle. I've already greased up the backing plates there, so that'll go on like that. And I've already put a bit of Loctite in the nuts for that side as well. So it'll all be Loctite, it'll all be greased and ready to go. And these are a 21mm nut as well, which is cool. So far I've only used two tools, 21mm and a primer. So that's all you really need to put your lift in at this stage. Obviously if you've got greasable pins like this, you need to tighten up those grease nipples with like a 7mm, I think it is, and a grease gun as well. But just a bit of grease, a bit of Loctite, and two tools. So I'll get this side in, try and film it, we'll see how we go. Alright, so I've got my new things here, put them aside, get me nuts. Me tools. Drink of water. Alright, so as you can see here, the gap between the leaf spring and the top chassis is quite small. So what I'll do is I'll jack it up and you'll see that increase there. What I want to do is basically just get it enough to put this pin like straight through. So I'll jack it up. Alright. Straight in. Alright, and you want to get this one. And pop it on. So we get it on just like that. Alright, and then get your 3 nuts and put all them on. So a couple of reasons why I went with these shackles, as I did mention earlier as well, was just a bit of a cheap lift. You know, I paid $100 for these off buy and sell. They're brand new though. You can get them on eBay and stuff like that for like 160, 170 bucks or so. But I just wanted to just get it up, just so I can get some bigger wheels on. And then once I can afford the back end, get all that done, I'll be able to get proper load rated springs and shocks, etc. And I'll be able to save up a bit extra coin to do it properly. So this is just to get me by for now, so I can fit the bigger wheels. Would I recommend them? Yes, as a cheap alternative. If you've got, you know, good shocks and all that already, like these are aftermarket shocks, they're okay. So I'd consider that these would be a wise, you know, financial sort of investment. As for like ride comfort and actual like performance, nowhere near as good as actual upgraded and load rated and everything like that. So obviously you get what you pay for, but this is just the cheap way. This over a body lift, yeah, it does make the suspension a bit harsher, I've heard, but the body lift just causes way too many issues. You gotta stretch all sorts of cables, and it's just not worth it. I just think a suspension lift's way better than a body lift. So I'll get all these tight. So that's both sides in now. I'll lower the jack down, and then I'll be able to just torque them up. I'll have to check out what the spec is for them. But that's that. Once I get them all tight, then I can put all the grease nipples in and grease them up, and that's the rear just about done. So I'll get the ratchet and all tight them up. So as you can see here with the bottom one, as you can see, I'm just tightening it up, yes. So I want to get it nice and firm. Alright, so that's good. So that's like pretty tight there. You just want to back it off just half a turn or so. Alright, and then when you lower it down, that's when you tighten it right up. This middle one here doesn't really matter because there's no bush in it, so we can tighten that one all the way up now. That's fine. Put one. So tight, and then half a turn back. Alright, so that's the rears all firm, so I'll lower it down. So there you go, now you can see that there's no jack holding it up. So I'll go around and tighten all them up. Happy days. Alright, so there you go. That's that one all tight with the ones with the bushes in it. Just, you know, keep going, you'll feel when it's tight. But the bushes sometimes do slide out, as you saw with that side there. So when they will get tight, but just keep turning them, and that'll pull the bushes back into where they're supposed to go. But obviously not too tight that you know, stretch the threads or anything like that. So if you know, you know. That's it. That's that side done. I'll tighten that side and we get the tape measure out. So the measurements are in. As you can see before, we've got 990mm floor to the wheel arch on the right and 980 on the left hand side. Afterwards, just fitting the shackles, you can see that increased to 1030 on the right hand side and 1010 on the left hand side. Then I threw the 35s on and measured it again, and that's how I ended up with 1070 on the right hand side and 1050 on the left hand side. So there is 20mm difference, but it's not too noticeable, so we can deal with that. So I'll just jack it up now and swap the wheels. Alright, the time has come. I'm starting to fit the front now. Got my 50mm coil spacers here, so I'll bring them up to the front. So first things first, we're going to get rid of this ABS line here. It's just a couple of 8mm there and there, and clip another 8mm up here, and that should be plenty enough. We're going to take the brake line clip off there just to free that up so it's not stretched, as well as also the sway bar links there as well. Once that's done, we're going to take this nut here off, which is for the upper control arm ball joint, and also take this tie rod nut off as well and drop that out. You've got your tie rod end nut cracked off here. You can see the ball joint here will be stuck on, and all you want to do is just hit it with the hammer, give it a good solid whack about there, and that'll break free. Obviously if you've got a ball joint splitter, then use that, but this is a little backyard trick that works every time. Alright, so you can see that's broken away now, so you can undo that bolt there, just push that out the way there. I like to always put the nuts back on where they came off, just so they're always got back in the same spot. So same again with the upper control arm ball joint here as well. Just loosen that nut off, not quite to the end of the thread there, and just give it a solid whack with the hammer right here, and that should free up as well. Just watch this upper control arm may flare up, but if that nut's still on, it won't go bang. So once you've hit it a couple of times, it'll be like this. Same with the tie rod in there. So now all you're gonna do is get your pry bar, and you can sort of just put that in on there and pull down. So you can see that's moving there. So I'll undo that nut now, and then this whole stub axle here will just fall out basically. Then we can release that upper control arm. Then we should be right to get the strut out. Alright, so you can see there it's all freed up. There's that upper control arm there with the ball joint. Whole axle hubs there just sort of falling out to the side. You've got your steering rack there, ABS lines off. So now you can see the strut's going to be pretty easy to remove, just this bolt at the bottom and then one bolt at the top. Alright, so once you've undone the 3 nuts here at the top, 1, 2 and 3, the strut may drop a little bit, this has here. So the spacer will sit on top of that up in here. So I've undone them, started to do this one, so I'll just take that one out, get this whole strut out, and then I'll show you the next step. So the spacer sits on top like that, and then you put the original nuts on here, and then these bolts bolt into the factory holes up there. So I'm going to put a bit of Loctite on all of these threads, put the nuts on nice and tight, and then refit the strut and do everything in the reverse order. Alright, so I didn't really get to film too much just then, but I've got the spacer in just up in there. So you can see how that sits, just like that. It was a bit difficult to get it back in because the front hub sort of dropped all the way down and that front CV popped out. So it was a bit of a pain to get that back in, and then also lift it up to get the upper control arm ball joint back in. But I finally got it with a bit of struggle. Got the jack under the lower control arm and sort of used that to help lift it up. So finally, but painfully. There's the coil spacer. And then I've just got to do up all these nuts here. So I'm going to put a bit of Loctite on there, and then nylock nuts as well. So that'll just keep them all nice and secure there. I've tightened up this upper control arm ball joint. I just got to put the split pin through there, and same with the steering rack tie rod in there. I just got to put that through, tighten up this bolt down here, and then sort of put everything back together. All right, that's this side all done. So I've got all the wheel speed sensor lines on here, upper ball joint nut on, Loctited with a split pin through it. Same with the tie rod, tight with a split pin. Bottom strut also Loctited. I've got all my 3 strut top mounts all bolted in. You can see the spacer just here. The original bolts just in through there. They were all Loctited down as well. I've got my sway bar links in there. So everything on this side here is all tight, ready to go. So the next step is going to put the 35 on and sort of have a look at this sort of guard area here. You can see around here is where it sort of rubs when you're turning and stuff like that. So I'm going to just try and pin that guard back a bit, and hopefully it should fit. So I'm sitting down now, done the rears, done the front, left hand side, halfway through the right hand side. It's a bit hard to film by myself, the front, so hopefully I gave you a bit of a run through of everything that you need to unbolt, and you know, tips and stuff like that. I'll do another quick little run through on the front. So first of all, you want to undo the wheel speed sensor lines or the ABS lines, whatever you want to call them. And you want to take that right out the way because you do not want to break them because they're bloody expensive. Then once you've done that, you want to take the sway bar links out. I actually ended up finding with the right hand side, it was easy to just drop the whole sway bar out, which isn't that hard on the BT. It's only an extra like 4 bolts, and then you can take like the whole sway bar out, and it makes it so much easier to put that strut in. The other thing as well is get your jack under the chassis and your jack stand there, and take your jack out and put it underneath the lower control arm ball joint there, just so it doesn't drop the hub all the way down and it pops that CV out, because I had troubles with it on the left hand side, and it popped the CV out, which is a bit hard to pop it back in, like inside the boot, sort of separated. But I got it back, but with the right hand side it's a bit easier because I put the jack under it. So put the jack under it, take the pressure off, sway bars out, then you want to undo like your steering rack arms, your tie rod ends, and also upper control arm ball joint. So just undo them most of the way, and then whack them with a bit of a hammer, and that should separate them. And then get your pry bar and just sort of tension the upper control arm down, undo the bolt, and then same with the tie rod, that just pretty much falls out. Once you got that, undo the strut and get the strut out. So it's pretty straightforward. Once you're looking at it, it's a bit easier. You can definitely do it at home,
I've done it before. It's been a bit of a pain to do because it's been a while, but I've got the tools to do it. But it is pretty basic. You only need a couple of like spanners and pry bars and stuff like that. One of the other things that I did find as well, when I put the spacer on top, because it's like a little bit offset, I had to put the bottom of the strut into the mount, like just sort of sit it in there and get my pry bar on the top and just twist the whole strut like 40 odd degrees or so, like clockwise, just so those bolt holes lined up again. So that's pretty easy to do as well, but just you'll come across it when you do it. Other than that, just make sure you've got everything in, bit of Loctite on all the threads and stuff. Huge fan of Loctite. You know, I think you should be using it on most of this sort of stuff. So once it's all in and tight, it's a bit different to the rear because you don't have to worry about the bushes and stuff like that, so you can just tighten everything up. Once it's all tight and everything's all done, basically just take it for a drive, go over some corrugation, go over a couple of bumps or something like that straight away, and then whiz it back into the shed and just go over every single bolt and tighten everything up again, just make sure it hasn't come loose. And then check it again in like 1,000 Ks or so, or after a Fourbie trip or something like that, just to make sure everything's still tight. And you shouldn't have any issues. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoy the video about the suspension, and it gave you a bit of a helping hand if you're doing yours. I'll also do a quick little video as well, but on the getting the 35s to fit, what to do with the guards and stuff like that. I did take a bit of inspiration from Fourbie Sessions Australia, like I mentioned earlier. So I won't go too much into that because he's got a great video over in his channel, and I'll try and leave a link in the description below for that video. But I'll do another quick one as well, just showing what I did, and then I'll just do a quick run through of everything again. But that's it for this one. Cheers for watching. See you in the next time.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious.